will be moderating, and we'll get to all the questions at the end. And then, yeah, just make sure you have a pen and paper to make notes. And I wanted to say thank you to Creative Manitoba for hosting me. I always love working with Creative Manitoba. They have such great programming for creatives and artists and everybody in the creative community. And it's just awesome to be a part of it. So thank you. And then also thank you to everybody who is watching today, everybody who signed on. The class is full, and that is just so exciting to me. And I really hope that I can teach you guys, you know, give you guys some knowledge, and hopefully that you learn something and it will really help your creative career. So thank you for being here. All right. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm just going to introduce myself a little bit. So my name's Cori Jaye Elston, and I'm just going to tell you a bit about my story. So, sorry, just a pop-up here. Okay, so I first started my career, I attended Ontario College of Art and Design. I was in their advertising arts program there in Toronto. And I ended up leaving that program, leaving Toronto because it just wasn't the right fit for me, and moving back to Winnipeg. And then I took a graphic design course here at Red River. And when I graduated from that, I kind of went into the workforce. I decided that graphic design wasn't the right path for me full time, mostly because for my work placement, I couldn't sit still in front of a computer for 8 hours straight. So that was the main reason I was like, I can't do this. So I ended up joining the workforce. So I got a position managing for a high-end boutique, and then I left that and I became a marketing manager for a large American company here. And I had a team of 25 people that I delegated to and worked with, and it was an awesome experience, but I couldn't kind of get away from the fact that I didn't feel like I was in the right place in life, and I didn't feel like I was living my truth in that position. I didn't feel like it was bringing out the best in me, and I just felt like, you know, I needed to really do what was in my heart, which was being an artist. So I ended up making the decision to leave that position and follow my dreams. And I definitely had some people tell me that I was making the wrong choice, and that I was ruining my life, family, friends, which was obviously very difficult to persevere past, but I also had a lot of support. And ultimately, you just gotta go with how you feel. So I threw my hands up and I said, I'm leaving. No, I left really nicely. Actually, I gave the company I was working for like 3 months notice, which is crazy. Yeah. So anyway, I ended up leaving and to pursue my passion of being an artist. And now I create surrealism style pop art paintings that I turn into prints and cards. And then I also work doing shows. I teach workshops about online media and media literacy. And I also do mentoring. So that's kind of my path up until this point here. And then I just wanted to talk to you a bit about my online media presence, which I will dive into deeply coming up. So I host, or I have an Instagram account. I also have a Facebook business account, and I am an admin for the Winnipeg Artist Group, which is a community for Winnipeg artists to share their work online. That group, myself and some of my fellow colleagues from Red River College started about 10 years ago, and a few of us still remain on moderating, which is awesome. And then I have a YouTube channel. I have a Patreon account. I have an Etsy shop where I sell my work. I have Pinterest. I teach some classes on SKILLSHARE. I have a Society 6 site, and I also have a web shop through my online website, which I host through Squarespace. So yeah, reading it out loud, that sounds like a lot. And you know what? It is a lot. Okay, so before we get into the presentation, this is something that's really important that you need to keep in mind through all this. So I'm going to teach you about different online platforms that you can use to make money and to promote your business and help with entrepreneurship, creative entrepreneurship. But at the end of the day, if the content that you're sharing on these platforms sucks, nothing else matters. So it's so important to have top-notch content. Without top-notch content, no one will care. No one's going to buy into your strategy. So you could have the best marketing strategy, but if the content that you're sharing through that strategy sucks, no one's going to connect with it. So content, make sure that you work on your content. So if you're an artist, that means that, you know, you're working on your craft and your skills as an artist and that you're presenting your work appropriately. If you are a musician, same thing, you're practicing, working on your skill. Chef, you know, make sure that when you're posting pictures online that they're lit properly and edited. So you really want to make sure what you're sharing online is of the utmost quality. Okay, so today's agenda. So we're going to talk about different types of income. Then we're going to discuss passive income platforms. We're going to discuss semi-passive income platforms, and then we're going to do a little recap at the end. So that's a gist of how our hour is going to go together. Okay, so invest in yourself and don't let anyone tell you this will be easy. So all these programs that I'm going to go over today take lots of time to set up and properly learn. Each application has its own interface and set of rules, and learning a new program takes a great deal of time and patience. During this presentation, I want you to think about one or two of these platforms you would like to try going forward. And yeah, basically I decided that I wanted to stop helping another business make money and start making money for myself by investing in myself. So I encourage you to do that as well, but just know it is a big undertaking and everything's very time consuming, and you just got to stick in it for the long haul. Okay, so let's talk about different types of income. So I'm going to break it down into 3 different types. So the first one is passive income. So earnings an individual continues to derive from an enterprise in which he or she is not actively involved. The next one we're going to talk about is semi-passive income. So the groundwork has been laid, but the task still requires a bit of effort for completion. And then the last form of income is active income, which is income for which services have been or will be performed. So I'm going to give a couple examples for this. So the first example I'm going to give is an example of passive income. So you've purchased a real estate and you rent out your property. Every month you receive money from that property, but you aren't completing any new tasks to receive that money. So a good note about passive income is passive income does not mean no work. It actually is a great deal of work up front typically, and then the income becomes passive. So you can make money while you sleep, which is really nice. The next example I'm going to give is actually about active income. So on the far side there. So active, anyone who works for another company and gets a bi-weekly or monthly paycheck is getting active income. The moment they stop working is the moment that the money stops. So this is when you're hired by another company and to complete a task, and you work for them on like an hourly wage or salary, and then you end up leaving the company. Well, you don't get paid any longer. So active income, it's the moment you stop working is the moment the money stops. And then the last one we're going to talk about is this one in the middle, which is semi-passive. So someone who runs an online t-shirt company, they're running a business that is semi-passive. So they have done all the work to get their shop online and get the t-shirts designed, but they still have to fill and ship the orders when they come in. So that's semi-passive. If I, put up a painting and then I've done all the work to complete my painting, which is a job in itself, and then I put it up online to sell, when someone purchases it, I still have to package up the painting, process the order, and that kind of thing. So that's an example of semi-passive income. So those are the 3 types of incomes that I want you guys to think about. So just to put it into a bit more perspective, here's how my creative career income sources break down. So under passive income, I have Skillshare, YouTube, and Society6. Semi-passive income, I have Patreon, Etsy, and my Squarespace website. And then for active income, that would be commissions, teaching or mentoring, and then also presentations. So yeah, that kind of gives you a bit more perspective. Okay, so we're gonna play a game. Here's my email. For anyone who doesn't have it, you can write it down. So the first 5 people to send me the correct answers, so the next 4 questions, will receive a special prize at the end of the webinar. So first 5 people to email me, I will email you back with a prize. And yeah, let's do it. Okay, so the scenarios, I'm going to give you 4 different scenarios, and you're going to write them down, starting with 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you're going to tell me, is it passive, semi-passive, or active income? So which does the scenario fit the best? So I'll just give everybody a sec to write down my email if you'd like to play. And then, yeah, let's get going. Okay, so this is our first question is, or our first scenario, I should say, is royalties. So you partner with a company to have your illustration on a children's book and collect royalties from the sales. So does this fit into passive income, semi-passive income, or active income? So just go ahead and jot down the answer. And we'll just move on to number 2. Music performance. So you get asked to perform a guitar solo on stage with your favorite band. Does this fit into passive income, semi-passive, or active income? Go ahead and write down your answer. Number 3 is graphic design. So you get hired as the in-house graphic designer for a large company. Is that passive, semi-passive, or active income that you'll be earning? And then lastly, number 4, shipping artwork. Someone purchases a painting at your art show and asks you to ship it to them in Arizona. So is that passive, semi-passive, or active income? So you can just write down your answers there, and then the first 5 people to email me, I will send them back a prize. All right, moving right along. You want to think about the types of income that you want, and then you want to balance that with the type of work you want to be doing. So already maybe you're thinking, oh, passive income sounds amazing. Like I'd like to build my whole career around just receiving passive income. But long-term passive income, it's not creatively or intellectually stimulating. So yeah, okay, you set something up that you're going to make money from. That's great and will be a nice portion of your career. But then what's next for you? Then you have this free time or whatever. What are you going to do with yourself? And, it's not as great as it sounds in terms of it being your only source of income. So you want to think about what makes you happy, including money, but also not including money, and how you can balance your life to live the best life possible. So, okay. So next, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of passive income. We're going to talk about 3 different platforms here. We're going to talk about Skillshare, YouTube, and Society6. So first, we're going to talk about Skillshare. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, what is Skillshare? So Skillshare is a subscription-based platform where people pay monthly for access to all video courses. So they pay a monthly fee and they get access to everything on that platform. They can watch as many videos as they want. And to be a content creator on Skillshare, you need to make videos that you break down into small digestible sections. So here on the screen, you can see there's the intro, that's their first video, and then this is their second video, etc. So you want to break it down into small digestible sections so people can watch what they have time for and then come back to it later. And then the videos can be about any type of process. So they can be about, drawing, filming, editing, painting. They can be about any type of creative skill. And the best thing about it is it's about the skill and not the final product. So it can be really awesome for creatives. And then how do you make money on Skillshare? So the way you make money on Skillshare is through viewing time of customers with premium memberships. So people who pay for the platform, that's called a premium membership. And then there's also people who are on a trial membership, which is unpaid. So you can try out the platform, or if you're on any type of trial membership that you haven't paid for, that's not premium. So if someone is on a free trial and they watch your videos, you will not get paid for that time. Versus if somebody is on a premium membership, meaning they've paid for the platform and they watch your video, then you will get paid by minutes per view. Minutes watched of your content. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about pros and cons of this platform. So a pro is once you posted videos, it becomes a source of passive income as people watch them, and the more videos have up, the more money you can make passively. So you post your video up, you've done all the work to film and edit and create the sections, and now your video's live. Your work for that video is pretty much done. You still have to engage with the community, and I would encourage you to answer all the questions that come your way, that kind of thing. But in terms of creating the content that's created, it's put out there, and then the more people watch it, the more money you will make from that video. So a lot of teachers on Skillshare put up multiple videos, and then they have multiple videos that are making them money. And then on top of that, what you can do is you can also take your content and post it on other learning platforms. So there's other learning platforms that you can put your content on as well, but you will probably have to edit it in a different way. So there's a couple others that I was like, for example, Udemy. I believe on Udemy, when you put up a video, it has to be a minimum of 30 minutes long, whereas Skillshare, I believe it's a minimum of 10 minutes long. So for example, if you did a video for Skillshare and it was only 10 to 20 minutes, you would not be able to put that up onto Udemy. But if you did a video, obviously that was 30 minutes or longer, you could put it up on multiple platforms and then be earning money for multiple platforms teaching online. So it could be a good way to make money. And then it's also a good way to reach more people and grow your audience. So it's a good way to reach people that are looking for the type of content that you're making. And then, once they start learning about you and engaging with you as a teacher, sometimes people are interested in your career or what you're doing. And it's a good way to kind of share your artwork and or whatever, creative platform that you're based in. And then I just wanted to talk about the cons a little bit. So video editing can be quite the undertaking, and I found that uploading to the platform can be a little bit glitchy. And then also, for example, for Skillshare, if you violate any of their community rules, your video will be taken down with no explanation really. And then they also have a 3-strike policy, which is very AI driven. So it's not really like a person is taking down your work. It's more like it's flagged, so that they just kind of, the computer system just takes it down. And so I've heard of quite a bit of people who have had some issues with their videos being flagged. I just recently put up a video that was flagged because I used music in the video, and I don't think you're allowed to use music in the videos on Skillshare. However, when I went to go through the community rules, I found I had a really hard time finding that written anywhere. So there is a bit of a kind of, you know, disconnect there. I don't find it as user-friendly of a platform as something like Squarespace, for example. Squarespace is a website building site, and they have 24-hour, 7 days a week customer care where you can call in and actually speak to someone who will help you, that kind of thing. So those were kind of my cons that I had with Skillshare. But yeah, it can be a really good way to make money, especially if you're really into teaching. So the next platform we're going to talk about is YouTube. Sorry, one sec. Okay.
I just want to let people know, because some people who may be on phones or something, it's going back and forth between your phone and the computer. So that's happening because Cori's using 2 feeds. So you'll have to just excuse that for now.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. I had a bit of trouble with my computer camera today. So I'm using another feed for my computer, or for my camera. Okay, so next we're going to talk about YouTube. So here's a nice little screenshot of my YouTube channel. Okay, so YouTube can be a good form of passive income, but the actual job of creating video content is not passive at all. It's a lot of work. So let's just talk about how you can earn income on YouTube, or if you've ever wondered how people are earning income, this is how. So you can monetize your videos after you reach 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours watched. So you have to have 1,000 people subscribe to you and have 4,000 hours watched in a given year of your video content. And then at that point, you can start to earn revenue through ad income. So Google AdSense, for example, allows creators to earn a share of the ad revenue. So basically, advertiser would bid on the spot in your video, and you would earn a cut of that, the profit that Google would make from that. Another way is you can also profit from brand deals. So you'll see that a lot when people are like, this video is sponsored by so-and-so. It's like, they get paid obviously to make that mention or use certain products in the video. And then another way is through affiliate links. So for example, if a creator is an Amazon affiliate, they can place links in their video descriptions to products on Amazon. And if a viewer purchases an item through one of their links off Amazon, the creator receives a cut from that sale. So for example, I'm a painter, and in my video, I say, oh, I have linked to this paintbrush that I'm using today in the description below if you want to check it out. And then you go through and click on the link in the description, and it takes you to the paintbrush in Amazon, and you decide to purchase that paintbrush. I would get a small percentage of that sale. Now, the interesting thing about affiliate links is if you were to, let's say, click that link and go to the paintbrush listing and then decide, hey, you know what, I forgot about this, you know, this camera that I want to purchase that I have in my, in my basket, in my shopping cart, and you end up going through my link and then purchasing anything else off Amazon through that link, even if it's not the paintbrush that I originally sent you to, you would still get commission from that. So I've heard of creators that have had affiliate links to smaller items like a paintbrush or paints or whatever, and then someone goes online and then clicks through their link, gets to Amazon, and then purchases like a $3,000 camera, and then the person who has the affiliate link ends up making like a huge commission off of that. So that's kind of cool. And it's also a good way to support people that you want to support. So if you have creators that you love and they have affiliate links, it's nice to shop through those links and support them if you can. And then one other way that you can make money off of YouTube, or a lot of YouTubers make money, is through their own branded merchandise. So it's like saying, hey, go check out my t-shirts, and people go and buy the merch because they love the people and want to support them. And those are the main ways that people get paid off of YouTube. So it's interesting that you don't get paid for having subscribers. It's all about views. So yeah, it's a lot to think about. Some pros about YouTube is it's a great way to build a following, as the search engine in YouTube works more like an actual search engine. It's not as filtered as some of the other platforms, or as kind of messed up by the algorithm type thing. Or affected by an algorithm as much. They do still have their algorithms in YouTube for sure, but the search engine works pretty well. So that's a really big pro for it. And then some cons for YouTube are the site requires you to build a large following to get paid. So that's really quite time consuming. And also video creation and editing, it's very time consuming. It's a huge undertaking. And you'll need to be in it for the long haul before you see any profits off your channel. Unless, of course, one of your videos goes viral, which could for sure happen. But a lot of people say that it takes 2 to 5 years to build a following and to actually earn a substantial profit from their YouTube channel. So for example, I was watching a video recently that talked about how Frankie Grande, who's Ariana Grande's brother, he has a YouTube channel, and he posted 2 videos per week for 2 years before his channel started to gain traction. And to produce and film 2 videos per week, I mean, obviously depending on your content, is so much work. So just something to think about. And then also another really popular YouTuber named Sarah's Day recently said on her podcast that it took her 5 years of consistently posting videos every week before she built her massive following. So YouTube's one of those things where you kind of got to be in it for the long haul. My experience on YouTube has really, I would say, kind of just begun, even though I've had my channel for, I don't know, I've had my channel for 3 or 4 years. But for me, I just used it as a place to land content that I was making for my Instagram primarily. So I'd do a mural and film it and put it on for my Instagram channel, and then I would, or my Instagram account, sorry, and then I would land the video on my YouTube and that kind of thing. So a lot of the videos that I have were just videos up that I created for content for Instagram. However, this year I decided to make a goal to use YouTube as a forum to help build my community, because I'm really interested in building a community of like-minded people that are interested in art and you know, solo entrepreneurship, and that we can all get together and support each other and that kind of thing. So I just recently started filming videos and editing them. I learned Premiere Pro, and I've been using that to edit videos, and it's I love editing, and it just takes so long. So it can be fun, but it is also lots of work. Like for example, I filmed a couple of videos that I have put up recently. One of them was an artist tag video where I I read and answer 20 questions about being an artist. And that video took me like between 6 and 10 hours just to edit. And that's like not including filming and that kind of thing. So it's a big undertaking, and it can also be a great way to reach new people that you want to connect with. So yeah, no good or bad, just things to think about. Our next platform we're going to talk about is Society6. So this is a good platform for visual artists, graphic designers, or anyone who works in 2D, digital, or visual art. Basically, it's a site where you can upload your file, so your 2D or your digital file of your artwork. You upload it to the site, and then you can place your artwork on pre-made templates and sell merchandise with your image on it, like phone cases and stickers and pillows, and they even have shower curtains, etc. So the company produces and ships all your products. So once you upload your work and set up your files, your work is done. So basically for me, what I do is I scan one of my paintings in to the computer, I stitch it together in Photoshop, and then I get my file ready for print. And that large print file is the file that I upload to Society6. And then I can choose which merchandise that I want it to be on, and that's kind of it. Then I just receive a message that I have money through PayPal, and they just pay me when people purchase stuff. So it's definitely a great form of passive income because I'm doing that work anyway. So why not try to reach extra people while I'm at it? However, there are some cons that are important to think about. So for pros, it's a great source of passive income, and it helps to reach a broader audience for your artwork. And then some cons are some of the cuts that you receive on the merchandise are really, really small. So for example, if someone orders a backpack with my artwork on it, so for the backpacks, by the way, you do have to download a Photoshop file and set it up properly. It's a little bit more work. But if someone purchases a backpack with my artwork on it, it costs the customer $69. And I receive a $7 cut from that. So this is crazy low. But at the same time, you're getting a check each month for doing literally nothing after uploading your work. And on art prints, you can set the markup yourself. So on the different types of merchandise, you're not allowed to set the markup, but on art prints, you can set the markup. So you can make quite a bit more money that way. And you can choose which products you want to sell your work on. And you could also just do art prints. So if you didn't like the markups on the other products and weren't interested in that, you could just set your own markups on art prints and do it yourself. Now, with all that being said, I do know people that make around $500 a month off Society6, which is just literally them doing their thing that they normally do, creating work that they would normally create, loading it up, and getting a check for $500 a month. So it really depends on if your target market are the people that are on that platform, and if your work's something that they connect with, and if you feel comfortable doing that. It's nice because they ship everything for you, like you literally do nothing but upload your art and get paid for it. So there's a lot to think about there. I'm sure a lot of people have different opinions on that. If that's good, if that's bad, it's all good. It's up for you to decide for you, but I just wanted to give you some info on it. Okay. So moving right along, so let's talk about Upwork and Fiverr. So what if you're missing a skill and don't want to or don't have time to learn it? You can hire someone on Upwork.com or Fiverr.com, or you can also set up your own profile. So here in the visual here, we've got someone named Helena from Canada. It shows her rate. So she's charging $50 an hour. She's top rated and she's a professional graphic designer. So let's say you need a new logo. You could just go onto Upwork, find someone who does logos, who's a graphic designer, and you could pitch to them what you'd like to be done. And if you're into their hourly rate, hourly wage, yeah, it's a perfect match made in heaven. You don't have to go and learn how to create a logo, and they get paid for their creative skills. Another one that I have here is John Doe from the US. He's a top rated and experienced book and article editor. So if you're a writer, this could be a really good venue for you to do small projects for people who don't like writing or don't want to do that. And it's also a really great thing to have for your website, because you can hire writers, you can hire designers, web developers, editors, blog writers, to do any scope of work for you that you don't want to do. Or if you only want to do one type of thing, you can do that by setting up a profile for yourself and having other people pitch to you. So you can hire someone for any scope of work, short-term work, reoccurring projects or long-term work. Or like I said, you could build your own profile. So my partner, he's a graphic designer, and he uses this resource a lot at his job. He's a graphic designer and videographer, and his company will hire web developers to do some developing that they need done, and that sort of thing. And my friend, she's a writer. She graduated from Crecom recently, and I suggested that she make a profile on Fiverr to create bios and websites and do marketing for people. And she already received multiple job offers, which is so awesome. So you don't have to worry about the fact that you're just starting and you haven't had any projects yet, because they do show ratings and how many projects I believe you've done on these sites. But yeah, people will still pitch to you depending on your bio and everything. And so I think it's so great, especially for people who are interested in doing freelance. And like I said, they have a rating system for the client and the creative. So you both would have to rate each other. And it's a great resource for outsourcing skills you're missing or just plain don't want to do. Yeah, so one thing that I was watching recently was a YouTube video about this guy who had hired like 10 different people to edit video footage of him, not him, but his company making a pizza for a video. And it was so fascinating to see, like, some people, this was off on Fiverr. So some of the people that he hired to edit the video footage on Fiverr, they were doing it for $30, the whole video. And some people he hired were doing, charging $500 to edit the whole video, and they were all using the same footage that he provided them. And it was so interesting to see, you know, the different ranges in skill and different prices, and it doesn't always equate, more expensive doesn't always equate to better. And it was just fascinating. Like, for example, the person who we paid $30 to make a pizza video for him did an amazing job. Like, the editing was insane. And the person who he paid $200 or $500, like, they were all good, but it was interesting to see, you know, what you can get on those types of websites for different price points. So it's a really good resource to check out. Throwing a lot of info at you guys, so I hope you're writing down questions for me. Okay. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the pros and cons of semi-passive income platforms such as Patreon, Etsy, and having a website shop. Okay, so first we're going to talk about Patreon. So in this example here, this is Sugar Bones. Basically, Patreon is a subscription-based platform where people can subscribe to you per month and pay different tier prices for different things. And then you can reward your Patreons for supporting you. So for example, this is Sugar Bones. You can pay $2 a month and just support her and receive nothing in the mail. So if you just love her art and just are like, yeah, I want to support you, you can support her for $2 a month. Her next tier is a patch club. So you pay $10 a month and you get a patch sent to you every month in the mail, an iron-on patch or an embroidered patch for your clothing or your bags, that kind of thing. And then she also includes stickers and art mail in that subscription. And then she also has a pin club, which I believe is the $15 tier. This $12 tier has been discontinued, but every month you would receive a new enamel pin that she has designed and produced in the mail for supporting her. So it's a really great trade-off where creators get to earn a monthly income, which sometimes doing solo entrepreneurship, you never kind of know what the next month's going to look like. So Patreon's a great way to earn a monthly paycheck, and then also to create kind of a following or fan base and feel that support. So I think it's a really, really great sorry, it's a really great platform. So some pros about Patreon is that it gives you monthly income that you can rely on having. And just like I said, with creative entrepreneurship career, sometimes you don't know how much money you're going to make next month, which can be scary. So the platform can be a good revenue at the start of each month. And then some cons, or even just things to think about Patreon. So it can get hard to get new patrons if you don't already have a following. So how are you going to get people to discover you or subscribe to you on there? That can be a bit difficult. And then also it can be hard to keep up with your rewards if they require a lot of time for you to produce. And then all of a sudden your workload skyrockets and you have trouble keeping up. So for example, my Patreon is set up like a card and print subscription service. So every month I make a new painting and then I turn that painting into prints and cards. And then I also have a digital tier for backgrounds and that kind of thing. So I make the painting, then I scan the painting in to the computer, then I send it to the printer, then I go to the printer and pick up the prints and cards, and then I have to package them and then put them in the mail and then ship them to people. So there's quite a bit of workload that is attached to mine, and I understand that and accept responsibility for that. I will say that there are times where I will get either lots of commissions or an influx in mentoring or what have you, and then it can get very stressful to kind of balance that responsibility of mine that I have put out there. So it's just something to think about, and you want to make sure that if you're going to create different tiers and a Patreon, that you have the time to put into it, because of course you've made that commitment to people and you would never want to disappoint them. So yeah, those are kind of some pros and cons about Patreon. Moving right along. So we have Etsy here next. So Etsy is an online platform where you can create an online shop, and they have a huge following, a huge clientele base that use the platform. So some pros can be that they have a massive client base on their website, and that your work will be viewed by people all around the world that you might not otherwise connect with. And then some cons about Etsy are you have to package and ship everything yourself, and you have to specify how long it will take to ship. And this can be hard to achieve for all orders. So for example, you have to write, this product ships in 1 to 3 days. And, sometimes, so for me, for example, my prints I put and my cards that they ship in 1 to 3 days, which is normally achievable. However, if someone orders one of my prints that I'm out of, or that I have to get reprinted, if my printer is running behind schedule, then sometimes it's hard to stick to that 1 to 3 day processing time that I've set for myself. So there's a couple things like that that you have to keep in mind. And also, just like Patreon, you've kind of committed to this, but then all of a sudden you can have an influx of orders. So you can get a bunch of orders out of nowhere, which is normally what happens. And then, if you've already committed yourself for that week, you have to still figure out a way to get those orders done, get them sent out and packaged up. And that can be a lot. So one thing about Etsy too is that they have a lot of intricacies about how to set up how to set up your shop, how to set up all your listings, what verbiage to use, all these types of things. So it's really important to do your research when you're setting up your listings on the platform. And then also I would encourage you to look into fees. So for example, I believe right now, from my calculations, the app takes about 8% after everything is said and done, which in some respects I feel like is high, but then in other respects, it's so great to be able to connect with audience, like their audiences. Like for example, I've done a lot of orders through the US through my Etsy shop, and also through Ontario and Quebec. And those are all customer leads and purchases that I wouldn't have had I not had the presence on Etsy. So my first experience, I've had 2 Etsy shops in my life. And when I was in graphic design school in 2009, I set up my first Etsy shop. And basically, I had graphic design style vector art that I was selling, and the shop did okay. I only got a sale like once in a while, but I did get a couple sales, and I ended up closing the shop because I didn't have a clear artistic vision of, you know, what I wanted for myself. And then recently, in the middle of last year, actually, I decided to open up another shop because I have all this art now. I have a clear artistic vision. I know who I am. I know what type of work I want to produce. I know what I want out of it. And so I relaunched a shop, and it's been going really well for me. So I highly suggest Etsy as a platform for your work to be discovered by other people outside of your immediate circle. I think it's really, really great for that. So you kind of got a trade-off with the fees and that kind of thing, but I think it's worth it. And then we're going to talk about having a web shop. So it's similar to Etsy, where you have to pay some fees for when people purchase stuff. Through Squarespace, for example, you have to pay for your monthly or yearly fee for them hosting your site. And then on top of that, you would pay transaction fees for processing when people purchase things off your site. For me, I still prefer someone purchase something from my web shop versus from Etsy, because I do feel like it's a bit more profitable for me. But you also have to consider that you are the person that needs to drive the traffic to your website. People might Google and might find it that way through search engine optimization, but at the end of the day, like for the most part, you're going to have to find ways to get people to your website. So some pros about having it are it's the best way to take control and market your work. But some cons are that you need to have a plan to drive traffic. And sometimes people prefer to purchase off Etsy. So I find this kind of interesting. For me, I found that even people in Winnipeg, sometimes they'll know that I have my own shop, like CoriJaye.com, and they'll know that I have a shop, Cori Jaye Art, on Etsy, and they still will purchase from the Etsy shop. I don't know, maybe they feel more comfortable with the name Etsy, and they're familiar with the platform, or feel like they have some backup if something goes wrong or that kind of thing. I find that kind of interesting too. So I'm enjoying having both of those shops up, but also, you know, there's a workload to that too. And if you don't have a website in general, I think that a website is the best way for people to learn about you and your product or your service. And it's the #1 way that people are going to find out about you. So I think it's like so important to have a website, whether you have a shop or not on it. So yeah. I just wanted to talk really quick. I know we're running out of time here, but I just wanted to talk about the advantage of using apps for driving traffic to your business. So I sort of touched on this briefly about having your own website on Squarespace or WordPress or Shopify. It's great, but you'll still have to be driving traffic to your business. So part of the reason why it's great to use a site like Etsy, or to have a YouTube channel, or, you know, some of the other things we talked about today, other platforms, is that they have built-in audiences kind of circulating around them that can discover you. So for example, for Skillshare, like I could post my classes on my website and sell them myself and make more money per purchase, so to speak, than I would be making from views on Skillshare. But then I have to make sure that I am directing all that traffic. So then I still have other costs, like advertising costs and that kind of thing. Whereas on Skillshare, people just have been finding my videos. So I think that it's important to think about the advantage that these apps have for their client base that you're able to use to tap into, and not to kind of ignore that. Same thing with Society 6, like the cuts seem kind of small, but at the same time, you're getting to take advantage of their client base on their platform, which is really, really huge. So I want to encourage people not to discredit that, because it's can be really huge to helping build your name for yourself. Okay, so just to do a little recap here, you want to think about the type of income and work you'd like to do, and then you want to marry the two with the right online venue. So what type of income am I wanting to earn, and what do I want to be doing, and how can I marry those two together? And then pick one or two platforms to start. So these platforms can be very time consuming. So you want to make it less stressful on yourself by starting minimally. So pick one, dive in, research it, learn it, build it, and then you can kind of move on to another. Don't try and do them all at once, because that's a lot. And then hire outside help for skills you are lacking. So you don't have to be an expert at everything, just the things you want to be. So make sure that you take advantage of other creatives and their skill set and use those to your advantage, and it'll save you time, it will save you money in the long haul, it will save you headaches. Hire someone to make that logo for you, hire a writer to write that bio for you. It just makes everything so much easier. We can't all be experts at everything, so take advantage of other people's skills. And then always remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, and know that building a presence on any online platform takes time. So you want to be in it for the long haul. As I'm sure all of you know, building a creative brand it's like a lifetime process. It's not like, okay, I'm there, or like, I'm done now. Everybody's always evolving no matter where they are. And so you just want to be in it for the long haul, and also try and enjoy the journey, the moment that you're in it, And then lastly, you want to do your research. So it's so important to research videos. There's so many YouTube tutorials about everything. There's so many tutorials on Skillshare about everything, and do your research. So, what's the best way to go about building this? What's the most strategic? How are the most people going to find me? That kind of thing. And then I just wanted to say one thing that I think is important to talk about is that, the media likes to put this image out there that more is better. Like, you need to do more, you need to be more, you need to earn more. And I listened to an interesting podcast the other day. I wish I had it on me. You can send me an email if you want me to find it for you. But the podcast was about how more isn't always better. And there are a whole bunch of people doing creative entrepreneurship at smaller scales these days. So they are not trying to grow their business past a certain amount. They're happy with the following that they have, and they want to maintain the lifestyle that they have, because if you're trying to constantly expand, it always comes at a price. And, if you want to be able to be a solo entrepreneur, not have to hire people, there's going to be a cap at how big you can grow your business and what that looks like. And so I think it's important to kind of think about the lifestyle that you want to have, and, the time you want to spend with your family and friends and that kind of thing. And then think about, what type of an online presence or what type of a following would you like to build, and when do you think it would be like too much for you? Sometimes with people, the sky's the limit, and like, that's awesome. Like, go you, I support you. But also sometimes with people, it can take over your life, and you want to spend time with your family, you want to spend time with your friends, and it's just too much. So I think that it's important to know that sometimes a smaller business is just as fulfilling as a massive business. Yeah. So just one other thing, normally with these types of presentations that I do when they're in person, I like to talk about building a community and highlight all the people there. But because this class was so big and because it's online, I wasn't able to do that. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, my Instagram is @Cori Jaye, so CORIJAYE. I'd love to see who is out there today and discuss with you anything. You can send me questions if you want. I'd love to connect with you and find out what your passion is, or what you guys are into, what your creative path is. And yeah, thank you so much. I guess now it's time for questions. That was a lot I just threw at everybody.
Thanks, Cori. Awesome. Yeah. You're always like right on time. Like, it's exactly 4 p.m.
Yay.
That's crazy.
Time is money, people. Time is money.
So we have 4 questions right
Okay.
now. I'll go in order here. Society 6, is it a Canadian or an American site?
It's an American site.
Cool.
Yeah, I also had at another seminar I did, I had people ask me if they are producing ethically, and I feel like that's a really good thing to look into too. I haven't looked into that, which there's no excuses, but I just haven't had time. But that is something that you would want to look into too, if that's important to you, for them to be how they're producing their products and that kind of thing, especially since you're not involved in that. But yeah, they are through the US, not Canada.
Yeah, especially if that's like part of your brand or your
Yeah,
values.
that's right. Yeah.
Ted asks, I think he's referring to Fiverr, sorry,
Fiverr, yeah.
and Upwork. How are the individuals vetted? And then if a company, like let's say a company uses a graphic designer, who owns the end product?
So I believe that just falls into, what do you call it? Copyright rights. So the copyright always lies within the artist or by the artist, unless they have written into the contract that they are purchasing the copyright from you, in which it should be quite a bit more money. So that's one thing, and they might not be aware of that. So that's always something that you should put in your profile, because that's really important just to have out there in case they say like, you know, hey, you can't put that on your website or whatever, you know, even though it is your work. So you would own rights to it, unless they purchase them from you. That answers the question? Yes.
Yeah, because
Okay.
like you're contracted.
That's
you're
right.
Not an employee. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, especially and if that's a concern to you, I would encourage you to, like I said, or just write a line into your profile that says like copyright remains that of the artist, unless you purchase it, type thing. Yeah.
And I guess the other question was, how are people vetted? But I guess like they're not vetted, it's just a rating system, kind of
That's right.
like
Yeah.
Airbnb or.
Yeah, that's right. So for example, like if I'm hiring a writer, the writer would produce a piece of writing for me. Let's say I hired them for a bio, they would produce a piece of writing for me, and then I would rate them on, you know, like time, how they executed the project, that kind of thing. Probably professionalism is in there too, and that kind of thing. And then they in turn would rate me as a client, like was I being, you know, I'm not sure, I can't remember exactly what the rating system's based on, but it I'm sure it would be based around, you know, professionalism. So professionalism, time, you know, the product that they produced. And again, for me, would be like, was I being irate or irrational, you know, with my expectations or like that kind of thing.
And Danny is asking your thoughts on LinkedIn as a player in directing people to your
Yeah,
show.
so my partner, my fiance, he's really into LinkedIn, and he's like, you need to get a LinkedIn, like you should be on LinkedIn. So I am actually not on LinkedIn, so I can't really speak to that. However, I have heard that it's really great for discovering people in your community and that kind of thing. So I would recommend it with the knowledge of that I haven't used it. Like I've just heard really good things about it. I've also heard from some people that, you know, there's some messaging that's unrelated going on LinkedIn lately. So I don't know if that's a concern to you, but yeah, I actually am not on LinkedIn, and I really should get on it just with all the other things I have going on.
As a instructor, for sure,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, for sure. I know.
Yeah.
I know I should. I'll write that down for myself for notes. Yeah.
Add more to your plate.
Yeah.
Kent, oh, this is related, was wondering, in a typical week, how much time do you spend on each of these websites and online revenue sources? And how much time do you spend painting or sketching? Do you like the balance?
Oh my gosh, this is like so it varies For me, every week looks totally different. It really depends on like my mentoring clients and how much time they require from me, or how many hours a week that I have blocked off for them that week. Because some people I see like every 2 weeks and that kind of thing. So there could be weeks where I don't see people, where I'm not doing any mentoring or any teaching. But I spend a lot of time on my Instagram. I spend a fair amount of time on my Etsy. I forgot to mention that when you make a sale on Etsy, it makes a cha-ching sound, which I like obviously love. It's great to hear, but also has been like kind of embarrassing me. Like embarrassing for me. I've been teaching classes. Like I was teaching a watercolor class at Assiniboine Park, and in the middle of my speech about, you know, what we were teaching, my phone was on the table and it went off with this like massive cha-ching sound, and everybody just looked at me and I just kept going. Or, you know, in meetings and stuff, sometimes if I forget to put my phone on silent, it'll go off. So it's kind of funny. But back to the question. I spend lots of time on my website, lots of time on my Instagram. And then I spend some time on Etsy, depending on how many orders I get that week. Some weeks I'll have lots of orders and some weeks I'll have no orders. Like it's all over the place. So it really depends on that kind of thing. But I love waking up every day and being able to be in charge of where I put my time. Lately, my weeks have been filmed with video editing and learning Premiere Pro. That's a huge one because I've been trying to produce better quality and more consistent videos for my YouTube channel. So I've been spending a lot of time on that too. And then Patreon is so great for keeping me consistent with my own practice. So it's hard, it can be easy for me to get lost in all these other programs, but in terms of like actually painting, Patreon makes it so that I make at least one painting a month that I set time aside for, so that I'm always painting every month. There's never like a month that goes by where I haven't painted anything. And then also I'm painting for the classes too. And I use Patreon as what I want to do. So I paint whatever I want for Patreon. And then that's kind of my expression, my, you know, building of my own skills and working on my own craft. So it's been really great for me just to kind of keep me consistent and also keep me painting and not get lost in all these like digital stuff, other platforms that I've been working on. So
that's really cool how it kind of influences your creativity as well. Like
yeah,
everyone
it's so
kind of separates, you know, the business from the art, but
yeah, and I
they
think
influence each other.
yeah, exactly. And I think it's important to, when you're thinking about what platforms you want to use platforms that are integrated. So for example, I create a painting every month for my Patreon, right? And I scan it and I send out prints and cards, but then I take that scan and I put it up on Society6. And then I also put it up on my Etsy shop, and everything's integrated together. Like the workload of my Patreon really helps all my other platforms. So you want to think about using platforms in synthesis. Yeah.
Awesome. Andrea's wondering if it takes time to build a following and make money, and if it's a good idea to hire out the skills you don't have, what's a reasonable amount, I think, of time to set aside to invest in yourself, or maybe time or money? But a reasonable amount to set aside to invest in yourself until things get off the ground.
Yeah. So for me, before I left my my big career job or whatever, I tried to save up 6 months rent, and then anything else I could on top of that before I left. Now 6 months is a lot, so if you can only do 3 months, that's good too, but just make sure that you have a bunch of savings before you take that kind of risk, because it is a big risk and you want to take calculated risks. So if you just leave your job with no money and you're like, I'm just going to do it, like you're going to be stressed and that's going to affect your work. And you want to come at things with a clear headed and feel comfortable and confident in your decisions. So I would definitely make sure that you have a good savings to fall back on. And then What was the other part of the question?
I think that answers the question.
Okay.
But Andrea, let us know if
let me know if that didn't answer your question. But yeah, that's really important. You want to be comfortable with the decisions that you're making.
Yeah. There's a few questions from AE. I'm not sure full name, but can you speak to payment disputes on the various websites? Like somebody saying they don't like the work after it's been completed, or people refusing to pay for completed work.
So I've never had a dispute on anything, but I have heard about some platforms where, for example, for a painting, like I would never, I don't start any projects without receiving payment up front, because you're just going to put yourself into the position, not a good position. You'd be not in a good position. So I always suggest that you ask for payment, or at least half of the payment up front from a client before you start work. So someone if commissions you to do a painting, if you can't get full payment up front from the client, you should ask for at least 50%. Especially since even though the work is not complete yet, obviously up front there are costs to creating a painting. Like you still have to go out and buy a canvas and buy paints and buy everything. And so if you're starting a project without receiving payment from someone, they could really easily just be like, actually never mind, and now you're out the money for the canvas and the paints and the time that you put in. So I always ask for payment up front, or at least partial payment up front, to avoid that situation. And then there are costs to running a business that you have to be aware of. So for example, if I sent out a print to someone who purchased it off my website or my Etsy shop, and the print came damaged to them, which could happen, I know that I have to cover that cost. At least I believe as a company that I should be covering that cost and sending them a replacement. So you can always ask for pictures so that you have a good idea as that you don't get taken advantage of. But there are costs to running a business, and one of them is that type of scenario. Now, thankfully, that doesn't happen very often, or that's never happened to me. But if it did, you have to think about how you would deal with those situations for yourself. And that's part of planning your business before you start.
Nicole mentioned there's also insurance on shipping that can help with that.
Yeah, that's right. Totally. So that's a really good point. If I'm shipping like a painting, especially a larger painting, I always purchase insurance to cover the entire cost of the painting, for sure. That's a really good point.
The next question is about people leaving unfair or incorrect reviews. Do you know if there's any websites that kind of let you address those, or don't let you address those? Or?
I think, yeah. So for example, on Etsy, you can leave reviews, and if someone's leaving an unfair review, I believe, or incorrect review, I believe that you can respond to them on the app, and it'll show your response too. So if you feel like someone's being like totally ridiculous, or like they're upset about something that you even replaced for them and they're still not happy, you could write like, I'm sorry about that, I did replace it for you, like I'm not sure what else I can do, or politically answer that kind of thing. In terms of websites that's the only website I believe that I run that has reviews. I do have comments for my YouTube. I moderate all comments now for my YouTube, because I had some hate on some of the videos that I had posted a long time ago that were I did a series about interracial love, and I had some people that were not supportive of interracial relationships, making like really, really mean comments. So I decided from that point that I would moderate all comments until a time where I couldn't keep up with it. So now I just moderate all my comments on my YouTube, just to keep it a positive place for everybody and kind of respect all people's views. So that's a way that I got around it on there. But yeah, the only other review or comment type thing that's harder or to control would just be the Etsy.
Yeah, moderating comments is good too. Because even for some of our events, there's been scams, people saying that they bought this and you can buy it from them,
Yep.
kind of thing. So
Totally.
I
Yeah.
think it's
It's
just
just,
good practice.
yeah, I agree. And just to keep a pulse on what's going on in your business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which websites have the lowest barriers to entry and the lowest fees?
So what type, can I ask what type of creative venture they're in?
I believe this is Angela as a writer.
As a writer? Well, for example, I'm trying to think of for a writer. The processing fees on my Squarespace site are at 2%, and that's not including the monthly platform fee that I'm paying to host my site and have it up on there. So there's a monthly fee too that you have to pay depending on which tier of the product that you purchase from your website host. But in terms of processing, like when they purchase an item or they purchase a service from me, it's about 2% that I pay on that, which is really, I think that's really good. Square, which is a separate, a handheld kind of, the little chip that people put into their phone so you can get the debit tap machine. A lot of smaller businesses use it for like cafes and that kind of thing. I believe their processing fees are around 2%. And if you have to manually input the credit card number, it's about 3%. So there's that. Society 6, for example, have no fees. They only, like a lot of the websites charge when you make a sale and not ahead of time. Etsy, for example, to list something on Etsy, it's 26 cents or 28 cents. And then the other 8% of the transaction gets done after someone purchases something. So it's low to start off with. YouTube is free. Instagram is free. Facebook free. Patreon takes about 5%, I believe. Yeah, hopefully that gives you a good a good idea of what's going on out there.
Okay. All right. There's a few other questions from Jaye, but I might just get them to email me your questions.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know what's happening in the chat. It's a bunch of random typing. Okay. Well, we'll end there. So thank you, Cori, for your time and your knowledge. This was really great.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great. Hopefully, I know I spewed a lot of info, but hopefully you guys learned some things and that it was helpful. And yeah, don't forget to send me your quiz answers. So the first 5 people, I'll send them a little gift.
Oh, so nice.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, we'll see everybody next week.
Bye.
Bye.